The Fantastic Four will take the stage tonight in Miami. Donald Trump will seek to stretch his lead as Mr. Fantastic. Ted Cruz will have to heat things up as any Human Torch would do. John Kasich has to channel more than a little Ben Grimm to muscle his way into contention. Then there's Marco Rubio, who at this point is mostly invisible, and those force fields are just about shot. Now, speaking of shots, the Iranian government is back at play with their favorite pastime, firing missiles threatening Israel. This as the president takes a few verbal shots at Middle East nations, being what he considers to be a bunch of free riders. We have borne witness to the free-for-all that is the Republican Party thrashing about of late and seemingly ripping themselves to shreds. The question is, anybody on that stage tonight who can bring them back to life? Noted author E.J. Dionne is here with the answers. And as the proud son of a military veteran, I am not willing to allow something said recently by a POTUS candidate to just melt into the background, as it says loads about his knowledge and his character. It is clobbering time. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hard Line for Thursday, March 10th, 2016.
Donald does well with voters who have relatively low information, who are not that engaged, and who are angry, and they see him as an angry voice. Where we're beating him is when voters get more engaged and they get more informed. When they inform themselves, they realize his record. He's what they're angry at.
The prevailing political thought has always been attack the opponent, but hammer away at voters at your peril. Donald Trump has blown that thinking down on his roll to the GOP candidate lead. However, his opposition has stayed away from following suit until now. Then again, there are some believing it might be the right time for Ted Cruz to unleash a new variety of attack if he hopes to truly catch the Donald. Let's begin there. Dive into what else we might see tonight as Republicans take the stage in Miami. Welcome back, New York Times bestseller attorney and writer at the National Review Online, David French. Joined by the founder of Tea Party Nation, political commentator and unabashed Ted Cruz supporter, Judson Phillips. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Hang on, Judson. I'm going to get to you in a minute because I'm going to start with David on this one, seeing as Ted Cruz is up top. Ted Cruz talks about low information voters, David. It talks about angry low information voters. Wait a minute now. This is interesting because don't you usually go after the guy and not the voters? This is fraught with danger.
Well, if they really are low information voters, they'll never know. So I don't know how
I knew somebody was going to say that out of the top, and I'm glad you got to it first, and it doesn't fall on me.
I mean, look, there are a lot of low information voters out there. I have spoken to multiple Trump supporters in my home county. I live in rural Tennessee, who don't know anything about what Trump stands for except for perhaps the wall, or that he seems tough, or that he would be strong against ISIS. I mean, we're talking about minimal levels of knowledge. But you know what? To Trump's credit as a messenger, he's reached those people with a very clear message. He's going to make America great again. He's going to build a wall. He's going to win on trade. Just very simple messages that have reached people and motivated them to the extent, sadly, that it looks like the Republican Party's on the verge, are getting very close to nominating somebody who's really, if he's anything, he's more of a left-wing Democrat than anything else to run the GOP.
All right, now you use the phrase very simple. And I want to get to Judson on this because, again, I think it's fair. There are people out there who, quite frankly, know the wall. They know trade with China. They know the fact that he wants to beat up protesters who show up. I mean, let's be very honest here. Let's not throw anything down. But, Judson, when Ted Cruz comes out, there are people saying you don't go after voters. But at this stage of the campaign, with 4 guys left, does he really have anything to lose? It's not like he's going to attract Donald Trump voters to him, right?
No, he's not going to attract those Donald Trump voters, and he may be lighting up, I should say, some people who might not otherwise vote for him, because I think there are a lot of people out there who are frustrated with the Trump voters. I know I am. You know, there was a survey done after Super Tuesday. Only 20% of the voters who said they supported Trump really knew anything about his history, and these are the things that the left and the Democrats are going to light him up about if he becomes the nominee, and they will very quickly destroy him.
Now, let's talk about the voters and what's happening right now, because there's a story today that's very interesting. He is a 78-year-old gentleman from Linden, North Carolina, John McGraw, charged with assault and battery and disorderly conduct. He was at a Wednesday rally in Fayetteville for Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. Here's the videotape of what is now going viral when it shows him waiting, and there are a couple of black gentlemen who are coming up the steps. He deals a big right forehand right into the guy's face. Now, let's be honest. He's proud of it. He says he'd do it again. Now, the gentleman who got hit did not face any charges. They detained him momentarily. But here it comes to you first, David. Donald Trump has come out and he has said, I wish I could beat this protester. I wish I could hit this guy. I'm not quoting, but I'm basically talking about what he has said at his various appearances before. People would say, A, this is not presidential, but does this not just egg this on? This is a dangerous thing that's happening here. Now we've got assaults happening. It's not the first time. This is not what you want as a president, is it?
Well, now it looks like his campaign manager likely assaulted a reporter, Michelle Fields from Breitbart, who was asking Donald Trump a question about affirmative action Tuesday night. And
well, wait a minute, David. Let's also point out here right at the top. Donald Trump did not order his guy to do that. Donald Trump did not tell this guy to do that. And Donald Trump, like anybody else, cannot control who comes to his or her rallies. Let's make that very clear, correct?
It's true. It's true. Well, I also mentioned Donald Trump's campaign manager, a pretty important guy. And also, Donald Trump has said at his rallies that some people deserve to be roughed up. Hey, don't hurt that protester, but if you do, I'll defend you. He talks about seeing a brawl in the stands and says it was an amazing thing. And then there was this incident in Kentucky that was caught on tape where an elderly gentleman is shoving a young woman away from the rally, surrounded by white supremacists who are screaming at her. And he said in his apology later, he got caught up in the moment and he heard Trump saying, get rid of her, get rid of her, get rid of her. He was doing what Trump was telling him to do. Look, we're heading for something even more ugly unless this is dialed back. He's acting like a tin pot generalissimo, and it's got to stop.
Well, okay, and we're going to play fair here because, Judson, it comes to you on the very same question. Same thing. He can't control these people. He doesn't tell them to do this. These are the voters. We don't know who else shows up. A lot of the people who support Donald Trump will say, Ed, all you're doing is taking one instance here of one whack job, and you're making a big deal out of it, and it means absolutely nothing because he does not stand for this. How would you answer back?
You're right. Donald Trump is this guy's employer, so he should be able to control him. But let's go back a couple of weeks. Remember a guy named Rick Tyler? He was the communications director for Ted Cruz. He posted a news article that wrongly accused Marco Rubio of mocking the Bible. He got sacked for that. As far as I know, nothing has happened to Corey Lewinsky, who is Donald Trump's campaign manager, who assaulted Michelle Fields. There's been no apology that I'm aware of. There's been no reprimand. There's been no action taken against him. And the really alarming part with the Trump crowds and Trump leading them, it seems more and more like it is devolving into a mob mentality. And what really scares me is, where does this go from here?
And it is not everybody. It is not everybody. I'm going to keep saying that until I'm blue, and I'm blue in the face and out of breath. It is not everybody. We are not generalizing, but we are pointing out what happened here. So we have got to talk about it on a very even basis, and we've asked those questions. Quick things here. Let's go ahead and get to this. Judson, I stay with you. Brand new Fox News poll. John Kasich is ahead of Donald Trump in Ohio. Now, coupled with everything else, does this tell us, here we go again, that his support is eroding just enough to make a difference, or are we just kidding ourselves?
The polls have been so wrong so often in the last couple of years.
Yes, they have.
I'm hesitant to draw any firm conclusions. If I saw maybe half a dozen polls that were showing the same thing, I might have a more confidence in it. But look, Kasich's game is this. He's playing to be vice president. He's hoping that Trump and Cruz do not get enough votes or do not get enough delegates to get the nomination, and he holds the balance, and he walks up to whichever one he wants to and says, hey, congratulations, I'm your vice president. And so that's the game he's playing. But I think Trump's support, to answer your question, is starting to erode a bit because people are seeing what he is, and I think some people are just getting tired of it. His word salad gets old after a while. He doesn't come back with any concrete proposals. He just gives you these. He's like a random phrase generator. He keeps giving you these phrases over and over again. Make America great.
Well, then again, it's also fair to say that Florida Governor Rick Scott was on MSNBC this morning, and he did the same thing. He came up with the same question over and over and over again. They threw him off the air. Donald Trump says the same thing over and over again. They keep him on the air because it's good for ratings. David, let's go ahead and get to you right here and a couple of other things. Donald Trump says he's going to be softer tonight, and he wants to be a unifier. And Ted Cruz seems like he's got to come out of the box firing pretty hard. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, here's one thing. There's one thing we know. Donald Trump can say he wants to be softer all he wants, but the instant he is confronted, he turns into bully mode, saying things like Lion Ted and Little Marco. If you question his brand, he goes ballistic. I mean, look at what happened in the press conference on Tuesday. Here he is, triumphant after big wins in Michigan and Mississippi that halted what seemed like a slide after the weekend. And what's he do? He spends about the first 20 minutes talking about Trump vodka, Trump wine, Trump steaks, Trump water. I was half expecting a 1-800 number to pop up under the screen so I could
Didn't you
actually
see it?
place
Wait a minute. Didn't you see it? I think it was there somewhere. No, just kidding.
Yeah, so if he's attacked, he's going to be Donald Trump. There's no question about it. So far, the most effective person in attacking Trump has been Ted Cruz because he's substantive, he's undeterred. He did it before Iowa, and he won Iowa. He did it before last weekend. And look at what happened over the weekend. He way overperformed from expectations. And now I think going into key primaries on Tuesday, assuming no other big disruption in the news cycle, if he can be just as effective as he has been, I think he'll erode Trump's support just a little bit more.
20 seconds to you real quick, David. House Speaker Paul Ryan says, don't try to draft me for president. Cease and desist order. I don't want it. Go away. It's a proper thing to do for him, yes?
Oh, absolutely. And trust me, if it goes into the GOP convention and the two biggest delegate blocks are anti-establishment Donald Trump and anti-establishment Ted Cruz, do you think that they would unite in a contested convention around the Speaker of the House who's under so much fire as for having, quote unquote, sold out to the establishment? A position I don't agree with, by the way.
I'm all out of
still,
time. David French, Judson Phillips, I appreciate your time. And of course, Judson, I think I know who you believe is going to win the debate tonight. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Stay with us. The Hardline continues.